So I've got the main snare there coming through. I've got decap on there, not too much, just between 2 and 3. I tend to sit between 2 and 5. Once you get over that, it's you know, it can really start ruining the sound. But if you can get creative on basses. Sometimes I like to play with this, the punish, and you can get some really crazy distorted sounds. But for drums, we just want to sort of clean sound, and we just want to sort of bring them through in the mix without destroying them. So it's a pre-snare. I use this on a lot of my tracks, and sometimes it sits in the background so much that you can't even hear it, and it just it gives movement, because obviously it's fading in, and then it really sort of helps emphasize the snare as well when the snare hits. One thing I didn't mention on the snare is I use Neutron. Again, great little plugin. You don't need this. I just love the transient shaper in this. But if I love the transient shaper, it's a multi-band transient shaper, so you can really shape the sound of snares. That's with it off. That's with it on. So it's really subtle, but it's also got an exciter on there, a compressor. So again, you can do these with other plugins, and just a little bit of extra EQ on there. You can do this with other plugins, but I love Neutron, especially for the transient shaper. Just boosted the snare. Again, there's a lot of bass and synths in this, so just getting drums to come through is really tough. Normally I would cut a lot higher than that, but it really needed that. It really needed that extra space to come through in the mix. So I've boosted a lot there. Just ducked out a little bit at the top end, because you've got a lot of claps going on, filling that space. So didn't really need that. Just wanted that main sort of transient hit on the snare. Again, parallel compression, bit of reverb. On the reverb, always run it through a bus, and don't have your reverb on your individual channel. And then I've just got Space Designer on there. Just play with the size bit, find the settings you want, and loads of presets on here. Just find a preset you like and just choose from, just manipulate it after that. And I've got a few claps. Not much processing on the claps. Too much processing, they can really, you can really ruin the sound. I've got a little plate by Sound Toys on the claps. I love using this for claps. Gives a really clean sort of reverby sound. And again, just cut off all the highs. So in the end, yeah, it come together quite nice. It's got a nice little bit of punch there. Usually I would have another sort of mid snare, but it didn't. This one was so strong that it didn't need it, and the claps really carried it through.
Bonkers.
I'll get into more detail about mixing in key in further tracks, but you can use a tuner if you're beginning, and let's say you're listening to sounds and you're not sure whether they're in key or not. In your DAW somewhere you will have a tuner, meter in, yeah. So in your DAW you should have something like this, and it'll tell you what key it's in, and then you just basically pitch it up and down to fit the track. You don't need to. You do need to mix in key, like if you want to progress. But when I started out, the first 2, 3, 4 years, I wasn't mixing in key. I didn't know anything about mixing in key till I went to uni. So it's not life changing, but it is going to help your mix. It's going to help all your sounds fit together. Your drums are going to come through in the mix better. So yeah, it's a good habit to get into. It's a long process, and sometimes I'm still lazy with it now, because I've listened to the same loop 1,000 times. I just want to crack on to the next track. So Yeah, mixing in keys is pretty important, and it's a good habit to adopt if you're looking to really start changing your projects to the next level. Again, this would have been like a sound that I'd bounced. This would have been a sound that I'd bounced and then just took the best parts. Like you can see there, it's just a synth that I made, and then this is why I love working with audio. Just loads of random modulation going on there. Just modulate the synth as much as possible, and just put loads of different parameters, loads of different pitch. And the amount of times I'll go through and then just pick bits out, and immediately you come up with an idea. So you've got all these little synths and sounds moving in and out, and then you start putting them together, and then, you know, I've just pitched this one down. It's really basic, simple track. But then it just pitched that second one down a bit, and the track was sort of away with the Reese and that. Without the Reese, like the Reese was really important in this track. Without the Reese, it sounds well so the Reese was really important, just because there was no lows and mids in there. So try and get used to not just adding a sub bass. That's what I used to do when I started out producing. I just sub bass. There was no Reese, there was no saw, and on top of that, sometimes I'll add a saw as well, like a fat saw if it needs it. And that was pretty much it. And then I've got a little trick that I've done on this synth is mono, right? So what I've done is so basically, obviously it's mono, so it's coming straight down the middle. You've got no width, and you can't use an imager. You can't use an imager on a mono signal. Sample delay, a little trick that I learned from Rezo tutorial, and just put the delay delay to one of the channels, don't matter which one, just slightly out of sync, and what it does is it basically hits the left monitor slightly later than the right, and that gives width. It gives stereo width. Basically, it gives you that. It's called the Haas effect, and basically it just gives that extra sort of stereo width, and it really transforms the sound. So there you got basic, and there it doesn't even sound like there's an effect going on. It literally, it just sounds like you're going from mono to stereo. So again, don't push it too much. You don't want the ear to realise that it's two separate signals. So it's basically tricking the ear into thinking that it's still one signal. And I've got the ozone imager on there. This is great. I'm pretty sure this is free. I'm not 100%. I'm sure this is free, and if it is, you need to go and grab this if you're not using it, because it's one of the most important tools for producing. I know a lot of people aren't using it, and basically this polarity chart here, you want to make sure you're at 0 or above or close to 1, and this basically tells you whether you're in phase or not. And if you see it's coming up down here, you're gonna be in trouble when it gets played out. You know, it's going to be loads of phase cancellation. So if it is smashing 1, if it's right up there, then you can get away with giving it some width. You know, and just push it up. Obviously, this is a mono signal, so I couldn't use the imager. The imager is basically just checking what I'm doing with the sample delay. So whilst I'm on that subject, that only works because the imager is after the sample delay. So remember that your chain happens top down. So the stuff above, if we swap that the other way around, it wouldn't pick it up. So that's really important. Another thing I didn't know until about 2 years into producing. So yeah, just make sure your stuff's at the bottom. Again, with a multimeter, just make sure it's at the bottom. If that's above one of these, it's not going to be registering that. So yeah, really great tool. I would go and grab that. And then again, reverb and parallel compression.